Welcome to the Quilt Love Laugh podcast. This is your host, Akila, and I want to thank you for coming in today. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you decided to come here, and I appreciate it. I thank you. So listen, y'all, today I'm going to be speaking about industry shifts, market trends, and guess what? Guess what? I have two stories to tell. One is personal and one is, we gotta see what Faith, Bev, and Nia is doing. But the personal one is pretty good, and we got some lessons to boot with that, but we'll get to that when we get to that, one step at a time, right, y'all? Right. I have to remind myself that almost every day, I think. So, look, I did some research and I looked into the industry shifts and market trends. And most of us have heard Joann's Fabrics is closing. And from what I read, they were going to close the last bit of their stores in Florida anyway by the end of May 2025. It was a major supplier for quilters and crafters. They decided to close their stores following a second bankruptcy. So my question is, who gonna fill the gap, y'all? Is it gonna be Scrap and Sew? Okay. Is it gonna be another sewing store? It is Nia, Faith, and Bev, Stitch and Sew gonna do it? Y'all know I'm playing, but who's gonna fill the gap? Because we still like our stores. We like to go in and see our fabric. We don't like to order everything online because it's nothing like going in to experience the store and look at what you're gonna buy before you buy it. But yeah, they talking about alternatives, Michaels, Etsy, Move Fabrics. Yeah, so we'll see how that works out, okay? Now, the quilting industry's annual revenue is projected to be at 4.5 billion for 2025, and that's slightly below last year's estimate. But hey, y'all, the quilting industry is still growing from the previous year. Okay, now they talking about 18% of quilters are newcomers, up from 11% last year. Um, yeah, so rising costs, though, have prompted many to utilize existing fabric stashes. We got to reuse. And what they call it, recycle any fabric we have. We don't have to, but that's good. I like to do it when I don't know what I'm going to sew, but I know I just need to sew. So I just grab me some fabric out of my stash and then just start. And then I'll figure something out along the way. Matter of fact, I had a tube top that I need to finish. I had a patchwork tube top, and I started the front, but I need to put the back on with the zipper. See, that's what's making me go, because I'm not comfortable with putting that zipper on. But I will finish it. I'm going to put a date on it. The next 2 weeks, I'm going to finish that tube top, okay? All right. So, and I probably show it on the YouTube. All right. But yeah, so that's what's going on there. Now let's talk about some design and style trends. Now the streets is talking about quilters are embracing bold graphic designs featuring large scale prints and geometric patterns. I don't know if we're doing that more, but I think we've been doing that. But that's what the streets is saying, okay? Simultaneously, there's a resurgence of vintage inspired quilts and that's drawing from traditional patterns. All right. Then, of course, they're talking about sustainable quilting, using eco-friendly practices, using organic cotton. They're recycling fibers, like I was just saying. And I learned from one of my classes that my teacher, she uses an organic cotton batting or something like that. It's a higher quality batting with less chemicals in it. So, that's an eco-friendly thing she was doing. And I have to look into more of that. But, when I first started, I'm like, I'm just happy to be quilting. Give me some batting that's not too thick, not too fluffy, and let's go. All right. So, according to quiltingdaily.com, the color trends is nocturne. They said this is a rich shade of purple and has been highlighted as a prominent choice for quilters in 2025, adding depth and elegance to projects. All right, so let's move on to techniques and tools. What's up with the techniques and tools in 2025, y'all? Is it the same old same, or we got a trend going on, or what? They saying the streets is saying quilters are focusing on enhancing their skills in free motion quilting and long arm quilting and aiming to create more intricate and personalized designs. Speaking of personalized designs, now I got to get to this one of these days in the near future where I love it when the seasoned quilters, they'll complete their quilt, they'll put their tag on the back of the quilt, they might put their first name or their initials, and they may embroider a special message on the back of the quilt. I think that is just amazing and a beautiful gesture and design. I'm gonna get there, y'all. We are gonna get there. Now, some events has been highlighted. QuiltCon 2025 that was held in Phoenix. They showcased the innovative quilt, including the Dignity quilt by Verushka Zrate, which won Best in Show. I looked at that. That's a beautiful quilt. I suggest you take a look at that. You can just look up the Dignity quilt from QuiltCon 2025, and it should take you there. Then we have the Quilts of Valor initiative. The Old Jailbird Quilters in Big Rapids participated in National Quilts of Valor Sow Day. Okay, crafting quilts to honor veterans. Awesome. This initiative pays tribute to service members and it strengthens bonds with quilters. Now that concludes this portion of the podcast. But let's move on to the story I got to tell y'all. You ever think that you wouldn't mind selling quilts here and there on Etsy and whatnot? Actually, I think there is an app called Whatnot where you can sell your quilts and unique arts and crafts online. But anyway, then you're like, I got other stuff to do. And that just floats onto the back of your mind into never land, okay? So boom. I was at a car wash pulling up to vacuum my car out, and I saw another new sporty mid-size sedan beautifully wrapped in white with green trim on the top and the bottom. It advertised his business. Now let's say the business was called I Wrap Cars, right? I asked him about it because I was thinking about advertising Quilt Love Laugh on my car, right? Let me advertise Quilt Love Laugh podcast. They need to know, right? So anyway, anywho, the wrap can cost up to a couple $1,000s, but he told me to get a logo and he'll work with me. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I can just put like one of those logos that's on the side on my door. Just says Quilt Love Laugh or Quilt Love Laugh podcast and keep it moving. Start small. See what happens, right? So then he said, you know what? Now I got a question for you. And I said, you do? But for real, y'all. He asked me the question. He said, do you sew quilts? And I was like, He wanted me to sew a quilt. He told me that his mother had passed away and he wanted me to recreate a quilt that his mother had made. So he goes on to describe the quilt. It was like a log cabin quilt with rainbow colors and a black border. And at first I was like, hey, I've been sewing, I've been quilting for about 1.5 years. I have this excellent teacher that sells her quilts on Etsy. She would be wonderful to you. He was like, no. He wasn't trying to see what I was saying. He said, I want you to do it, because he knew I was trying to get out of it. Now, I do have enough skill to do this, but I'm not used to doing this. But he bolstered me up. He hyped me up. I then became more and more confident. I'm like, okay, I can do this. We exchanged information. I contacted him I think that same day saying thanks or something like that, or the next day saying I'm going to get the information you need or to get the information I need to move forward with making this quilt. Cool. He texted back, okay, cool, something like that. So I went to my mentors at Scrap and Sew, told them what I was looking for. They found a log cabin pattern for me. They gave me a ruler that had the log cabin design on it that I could use. And they gave me some information like, hey, it's going to take a while for this log cabin pattern. That was good because I've never made that type of quilt. And I said, okay. So I ordered the pattern. I got the log cabin ruler eventually, but I kept in touch with this person and told him in a timely manner what I was doing. And the last time I told him, about the fabric I was going to need, the pattern, and things like that. And, I was still excited. I thought he would be ready. This is about a week after I met him. So I called him. He said, I'll call you back. He texted me, I'll call you back. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just text him the information and he'll see it. So, y'all, I texted him that information. And what do you know? Crickets. Crickets. And just like that, he was gone. So, yes, I'm telling this story. If you decide that you want to sell your quilts, my mentors are Scrap and Sew. I told them the story afterwards, and they told me, if you're going to take on a assignment like this, make sure you get paid along the way. Like if you're gonna have $100 in supplies that's needed before you start it, make sure you get the person to pay for that $100 in supplies. Whether you want to get paid by the hour or charge a flat rate, you should get paid in increments, because people sometimes get excited. They could change their minds. But for the one thing you don't want to do is start and finish a whole quilt and then that person get gone. You ain't heard from them no more. So yes, your energy, your time, your expertise, your creativity is valued, and you should be paid for that value. So it's just a little quick thing, y'all. But yeah, that concludes this portion of the podcast. And next we're gonna see what Faith, Bev, and Nia are up to.
Feeling so high, happy to be alive, moving through life, stitching our dreams together.
After weeks of late nights, fabric orders gone wrong, and endless emails about their new online quilt business, Stitch and Soul, Faith, Bev, and Nia were burned out. Even Bev, who usually thrived on creative chaos, hadn't touched her rotary cutter in days. If I see one more email with the word inventory, I'm going to stitch my laptop closed, Nia muttered. Faith laughed. I think we need a break. Bev stood up and clapped her hands. Road trip. Nia and Faith blinked. Like, right now? Right now, I've got snacks, a tank full of gas, and a strong suspicion that the open road will clear our minds better than any business strategy meeting ever could. 3 hours later, the trio was winding down a back road highway, the sky wide and pink with sunset. Bev was driving, Faith DJing with a playlist that bounced from gospel to neo soul to old school funk. Nia passed around the sweet tea in mason jars. I heard there's a small town up ahead with an old textile mill turned antique shop, Bev said. Legend says there's a forgotten stash of hand-dyed African fabrics in the basement. Nia raised an eyebrow. That suspiciously sounds like work. Bev grinned. It's leisurely treasure hunting. They arrived in Marley Ridge. Population, tiny. Just as the sun slipped behind the hills. The antique shop was about to close, but the owner, a gray-haired woman named Miss Lottie, took one look at Bev's handmade quilted jacket and said, "Y'all better come on in." The place was a labyrinth of trunks, dusty shelves, and the smell of cedar. Bev discovered a 1950s sewing machine that still purred. Nia found a box of postcards from a traveling seamstress. But it was Faith who found the basement door. It creaked when she opened it. Bev sighed. Of course, Faith found the mysterious basement. "Come on," Faith said. "Adventure awaits." The stairs were steep and the light dim, but at the bottom was a room filled with neatly labeled crates. Faith cracked one open and gasped. Bolt after bolt of indigo and mudcloth fabrics, preserved in plastic and tied with tags written in elegant script. Miss Lottie followed behind them. Those were brought over by a missionary woman who used to teach young ladies how to sew during the summers in Ghana. I've been waiting for the right people to find them. Bev touched one of the fabrics as she looked in awe. We'll honor this. No selling it, Miss Lottie added quickly. Only using it for good. We promise, the women said in unison. That night, they camped at a nearby meadow with borrowed sleeping bags, staring at the stars and talking about everything but business. Faith braided Nia's hair. Nia told a story about how her grandma used to stitch secret prayers into her hymns. Bev stayed quiet for a while, then finally said, I think we needed this more than we knew. Nia looked up. What, the adventure? No, Bev said, smiling. The reminder that what we're building isn't just about products, it's about purpose, okay? Faith cleaned her mason jars against theirs. To fabric, freedom, and to finding what matters. For the first time in weeks, none of them felt burnt out, just blessed. Tomorrow, they return to Stitch and Sew, but tonight, there were just 3 women under a quilt of stars, stitching their dreams back together. And that concludes this portion of the podcast. Thanks for listening. Talk soon.
Feeling so high, happy to be alive, moving through life, stitching our dreams together.